everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of our podcast, Both Keys at the Same Time. I am the Miserable Movie Man. I'm here with our friend, the Dyson, as I think he's going to stick with now. Are you sticking with that?
Yeah, man. Come on.
Yeah. But you're going to say it the right way?
Dyson.
Dyson.
Dyson. Dyson, no.
Dyson, no. Yeah, I think it's been a while since our last podcast. We haven't really had a chance to catch up, but we got a few things to talk about today. Maybe some heated debate. I don't know. Let's get into that a bit later. But first, I wanted to pose a question to you as one of the two martial arts aficionados, I should say, here on the screen. You are much more of a practitioner than I am, but I know a little bit about the theory and stuff too. So I saw on a post the other day, someone was saying, which I disagree with, I want to get your view, that Tai Chi is just for fitness. It's not an offensive martial art. And the interesting thing, it was Jimmy O Yang who was saying this to Bobby Lee in one of Bobby Lee's podcasts. And they're both stand-up comics.
Who's Jimmy O Yang?
Jimmy O Yang from Silicon Valley. He's got stand-up specials, Crazy Rich Asians. He's
right.
Interior Chinatown. He's from Hong Kong. But they were saying Tai Chi is not an offensive martial art, it's just for fitness. Now, I know you have studied Tai Chi a long time, and of course, Bowler Young famously studied it under his mum, who was a great master here in Hong Kong. And there are two styles, right? Soft and hard. So what do you think?
Oh, big topic. It's sort of controversial, but not. So I suppose, okay, if I give you my background. So I've studied various martial arts from childhood, including Taekwondo. Then I did Wing Chun for a bit, and then eventually stumbled upon Tai Chi with my teacher.
What about Wing Chun, Kung Fu, Muay Thai?
Yeah, Muay Thai. I've done Muay Thai as well.
If anyone knows where that quote is from, post it in the comments, and we'll give you a thumbs up.
Yeah, awesome film. So yeah, and then I studied under my teacher called Dan Doherty, who was he's the last sort of full contact fighting champion to come out of Tai Chi for, I don't know, since probably the 80s. So I studied on him for about 20 plus years. So I'd say I've got a good handle of that complete system which I was taught. But I did also study, kickboxing, grappling, and MMA styles things for probably 5 years. Got a black belt in that, so I've got some clue. I will say I haven't practiced anything hard for quite a long time, but I still maintain a lot of the the practices from our style of Tai Chi. Now, if anyone wants to look it up, I mean, my teacher's teacher was very famous. It was called Chen Tinghung from Hong Kong, and again, he was famous. He was called the Tai Chi bodyguard in his time because he used to go and, if necessary, physically defend other Tai Chi practitioners, often getting bullied by hardstyle martial artists.
He wasn't the bodyguard from Beijing.
No, he wasn't the bodyguard from Beijing.
What a film that was!
He was the bodyguard from Kowloon.
Yeah.
That's.
Hey, listen, Kowloon. I live in Kowloon. Kowloon needs bodyguard. Let me tell you.
If anyone knows the history of those things, I mean, those challenge fights were no joke. I mean, these rooftop ones are there, but essentially they were sometimes weapons, sometimes not, and pretty much minimal rules. But if you go back to actual combat, so my teacher in those days, he won the open weight Southeast Asian full contact championships, which at that time it was kind of on a raised platform, not like fully blood sport style, but that sort of thing. Yeah. No, it's called Lei Tai competition. It's called Lei Tai. So you're allowed to strike, grapple, and throw a couple of hits on the ground. It's a bit like karate combat, if anyone's familiar with that. So it's pretty serious combat. There's no like kind of submissions on the ground and that, but it's pretty bad. I mean, I think someone died in the first one he did in the 70s. It's pretty rough. So he won that. He knocked quite a few people out, but he's a fairly big guy. But actually, his training partner was a guy called Tong Chi Kin, who's the middleweight champion. Not many people know about him. He was also a great fighter. So there's a history of Tai Chi fighters. Now,
But when
um,
they fight, do they use Tai Chi to fight?
yes. So it's an interpretation. Like, so what most people know about Tai Chi or Tai Chi Chuan, what they call it, is the hand form, which is those gentle movements. You see people in the park doing, which is it's like a kata, sort of like it's a kata, but it's also training your body to move in certain directions and maintain certain postures. And there's techniques hidden in there, but there's actually five other parts. So you've got the pushing hands exercise, you've got the applications, which are the self defense techniques. You've got something that we call Neigong, which is internal training, or what might some people call qigong or iron shirt qigong. So the ability to get hit and generate power, and then there's weapons techniques and things like that. So you know, in our group of people, there were certainly a lot of us competed in full contact fighting. So it's like this. It's like many things. People want to stick to like this technique is this technique is that, but what I think goes wrong. A lot of the things with Tai Chi is that people are very much living on my so and so master's grandfather 200 years ago did this and that, and actually they don't test themselves. They don't fight people. They don't fight other styles. They don't practice the applications in reality with resistance. So doing it on something compliant is one thing, but when someone's actually trying to hit you back, it's a different thing. So the techniques themselves have to be adapted. Now,
Well, Bruce Lee said it
so
best,
I
right?
would
When
say,
he said, "Boards don't hit back." Oh, not Bruce Lee. It was
yeah,
Bolo. Bolo said it in Enter the Dragon.
yeah, exactly. So I'm of the view that is it a viable martial art? Yeah, and actually, as a style, it's actually a counter-attacking style. So the whole soft and hard thing is the idea is that you don't fully like karate, bang, you don't block something like that. You try and redirect it. But what most people get wrong is they think it's only a redirection, right? It's not. It's like a
Wait,
redirection then
is there a counterpunch
strike.
technique?
A what?
Is there a counterpunch technique? Rum.
Yeah, yeah, drum tech. Well, actually, sort of. There's something similar. But again, that's two things. People mistake that. They think it's just this. It's not. It's actually a strike. In the same way that people don't understand what a reverse punch is in karate, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
actually two techniques.
reverse punch.
Yeah. So it's not that the fist coming back is actually a grab and a pull. It's a pull onto a strike.
Mm.
And the same thing with the rising block. It's not a block. It's actually partially a strike. If you actually look at the old bunkai texts and all this, whatever it's called, bubishi thing, whatever it's called for their technique. So I mean, certainly I can say, what we say. My elder brother, um, uh, Neil Rosiak, he's a very good fighter. He's competed in MMA using Tai Chi. He's exclusively learns Tai Chi and
Is he on
trains it and
YouTube?
teaches it. Hmm?
Is he on YouTube? Might see what videos. I'll check him out.
Yeah, yeah, you can find him. You can find there. You can find pictures of those things. So
So there's
I
that,
would say, look,
I was going to say
sorry,
there's that guy in China that's going around doing MMA on traditional styles, right? You've seen that guy that tries to
yeah,
showcase how effective MMA is against people that really, as you said,
yeah,
they don't have resistance.
yeah. I'm all for it, frankly. And the reason I say that is not a disrespect thing. It's if we want to preserve traditional styles of martial arts, people have to get real and like learn that actually no, you need to apply techniques in certain ways. You have to practice it that way, right? And there's not this thing like, oh, this style is the best, right? It's a combination of the technique and the practitioner and how they train and how they practice and all of those
I think
things.
that's pretty much an assumption for all styles, right? A pretty obvious extrapolation. But I think Jimmy O Yang and Bobby Lee couldn't believe or didn't have the knowledge to understand that Tai Chi can be used offensively. They thought it was, as you said, only the gentle, the hands, only for fitness, only for exercise. Doesn't have anything else to it. And that was a bit disappointing because I thought, coming from Hong Kong, Jimmy O Yang might know a little bit more about the history of Tai Chi and its application. But I guess he came over when he was young, so to the US.
I would say that to be fair though, I would say that over 90% of Tai Chi practitioners are absolutely useless at fighting or defending themselves. And actually, the other part of it is that it's a complete. So it's yin and yang, right? So the hard exists, the soft exists, right? So
Yeah.
actually, if you don't learn the hard style as well, it informs how one would do the softer parts. Now, this isn't me saying you have to do that. If you're just doing the hand form, great. It is a great exercise. It's fantastic, right? But I think if you're gonna think you're gonna learn it's like anything. People that learn katas and forms and whatever and think they go and fight. Good luck,
Hey,
right?
word against
You're gonna get hit in
Iran,
the
the
face.
Karate Kid 3. Get the point! Get the point! What's he doing? Get the point! He does the
Love
kata.
it.
Hey, have you
I
seen the
love
end
it.
of Cobra Kai yet? Season 6? All of it? Or no?
I've seen the first 5 episodes of Cobra, the season 6.
Oh, okay. So we should do an entire episode on Cobra Kai and season 6 because there are a lot of things about that ending that I thought would generate a lot of discussion. And there was a couple of things they said and they did that I thought they did really well, and a couple of things that relate to some of the stuff we're saying now, which I thought was a really nice extension of the principles of that show. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think, as you said, and kata was always, in my mind, when I did a little bit of it here and there, was really designed to hone the movements of those techniques. You know, you can never
Yeah,
really use it in a battle. Maybe it came from a battle hundreds of years ago when one guy created a series of moves against whoever was there, and maybe that worked or it didn't. But yeah, I think a lot of it for me was just, this is how you practice getting your technique right, as opposed to using a kata in an actual situation.
yeah. But there's also strategic things inside various forms, like one technique leads to another one, leads to another one in
Yeah.
different in like the pattern of it can matter.
Yep.
So I just want to caveat saying, look, I respect everybody. I really don't like these inter-style fights, right? Especially in times this, that, and the other. Look, everyone should do what they want to do, and ultimately it comes down to the practitioner who you learn with, how you learn it, why you're doing it. Like, so I would say that their overall what they're interpreting is what they see, which is what most people do, and I think actually that's probably a correct statement. But in that, is there a martial art? It's like, well, yes, there is. It might be hard to find a teacher for it who will learn it, and you might not want to do that. So that's a different, and it's a very subtle martial art. One of the things I often think about these styles is it's very hard to actually do it from scratch and become good at fighting. If you do something else and then do it, then you sort of pick, oh right, oh I can do this, I can do that. It seems a bit easier because it's sort of subtle,
Yeah.
some of the things. So I would say their basic statement is right, but it's not entirely right. I would say, And by the way, in Hong Kong, my teachers' sons still teachers,
Well,
right?
I was going
They're
to say,
still
I
good.
think it's getting harder and harder to find traditional kung fu, traditional Hong Kong Chinese styles in Hong Kong because I was going to ask if he still teaches because their popularity seems to be gone. It's very sad to me that people in Hong Kong don't train Hong Kong or Chinese styles that much anymore. Everyone is doing taekwondo or karate or a bit of, MMA, a lot of Thai and kickboxing to Muay Thai and kickboxing to train your conditioning, and also a little bit of Krav Maga. But the hard styles, the traditional Tai Chi styles, the Mantis, all of these things that they're getting harder and harder to find, and fewer people are training it. So it's a bit
Yeah, I
sad.
mean it's
I think Hong Kong's losing that cultural impact and identity that it gave to the world.
yes, which I find sad. I mean, I still love it. I think they have their place. Like a lot of these sports style things they're great. Actually, look, this whole thing is like all traditional ones do. We just do this deadly stuff; it'll kill you. I think that's nonsense. I mean, you try and do that to someone who's a good kickboxer or something. You have to be better. That you have to be conditioned. All these things you have to be used to timing and speed and da 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 da. All this kind of stuff. So I can completely understand why it's dying out, right? Because also you think about it, the time investment, right, and just modern day people. It's like
Well,
no one will do that for that long
that's one
if they
thing.
don't feel like they're getting results, right?
Yeah,
Whereas you can do 6 months of like Thai boxing and be like so much more proficient than doing 6 months of a very traditional style where you just do stances and you do forms and there's a purpose to it all, right? in the end.
Yeah.
But whether people have the patience for that, I don't know.
I don't think it's just patience as well. I think it's the severity of the training too. Because if you look at the traditional styles of, Hongar or Crane or Mantis, all these things, right? The Northern Fist, Southern Fist, they're hard on the person to train. The traditional techniques are very hard to train properly. And I'm not saying Muay Thai isn't hard, but it's just, lesser techniques and
good luck.
yeah, exactly. The lesser techniques and the training isn't quite as tough from the
No, but they're physically hard. No, what I'm saying is like the conditioning in Muay Thai is very, very severe.
yeah.
But what I'm saying though is that because it's distilled a few techniques, you learn like the round kick, you learn the teep, you learn this elbow, you learn that. You can just do those things. You practice on the bag, and you practice against other people, and you spar straight away. And
Yep.
it's so technically it becomes very difficult because most people don't understand how much grappling is involved in actual Muay Thai,
Yeah.
like stand up grappling. It's very subtle. But what I'm saying is, you can see a path to getting good as opposed to the old tradition, like you learn the form, then you do this, then you do that, then you do that for years, right?
Well, it's like
And
that.
that's the problem.
It's like that Batman origin story that I love. I think it was one of the secret origins was they did the man who falls, and Bruce Wayne goes to that temple. I don't think Nolan did it in this way, but he goes to the temple and he tries to stay outside, and no one's letting him in, and he spends a couple of weeks there, and then he finally goes in, and they're just like sweep the floor. So he sweeps for like 2 months, and then watches for 2 months.
Yeah, that whole story. So
yeah, it's a brilliant story.
I think there's the philosophical side of it which gets a bit lost in like current day martial arts.
Yeah.
Also, there's something about survivability in terms of your own health. So, for example, you will go to a kickboxing place and this and that. I think jiu-jitsu is different because actually that's very hard wearing, and so is judo. But where you wrap your hands and things like that, whereas the ability to actually hit someone in the head and not break your hand is quite difficult, right? So that takes a long time. And like, I remember being a kid, like, my first teachers, like, knuckles are like golf balls from like, hitting, I don't know what he was hitting, but whatever. He was just physically, he was hard. Now, is he as good an athlete as these guys now? No, probably not. Right. But he like that kind of hardness and also mental toughness. I remember those things. You get thrown. They didn't even have proper mats, right? You just didn't have it.
Yeah.
So it's a different thing. I'm not saying necessarily it was better or worse. I don't know in some sense, but a highly trained MMA athlete he's gonna take out almost everybody. It's just that people think, oh, it looks simple.
No,
right?
Grappling very straight.
But it's not.
I had a mate back in the day. He used to train a few different styles, and I realized, as the more he talked to me, he was a bit crazy. I used to work with him. He had a flat in Manchester where he had one room completely padded, and he used to go out on the town on a Friday.
Yeah, I remember.
Do you remember this guy? Yeah, just for people that.
Yeah.
He used to go out on the town on Friday night, pick a fight with people, say, look, if you want a real fight, come back to my flat, and we can have a go at each other. And so he would bring drunk people back to just fight him, so that he would be conditioned to not freezing, or being able to try his techniques, or trying to see what would work, what didn't in a real life situation. Because until Mike Tyson said, famous quote, "Everyone has a plan, so they get punched in the face," right? So
yeah, it's very true.
Very true. And Jimmy O Yang, I think, didn't know enough about Tai Chi. I think Jimmy O Yang is quite funny. I mean, I think he's a brilliant stand-up. No offense, Bobby Lee. I think he's better than you, but you're still good. But in his stand-up all the time, he talks about his dad in Hong Kong, and he just calls him Jimmy Ya all the time, right? And my wife, who's Chinese, and my daughter called Amia, we call her Mimi, all the time she goes around going Mimi Ya, and I just think of Jimmy O Yang regularly because of Mimi Ya here at home all the time. But let's shift topic a little bit. I think we're going to talk about a few more couple of things where I have to go. But let's switch a little bit to. I did a review on it anyway. Let's start a bit of more of a softball discussion. Captain America: Brave New World. You saw it, right? What do you think?
What I think overall, it was all right. Pretty average. I won't watch it again. Not in anger or anything.
If it was,
there was just
late afternoon, Disney Plus, you got nothing else to do. I guess you'd pick something else, right?
I'd pick something else,
Yeah.
right? It was okay. I mean, I thought overall it was. Let me see. I like Sam Wilson, the character. I like how he's played. I like all of that. But I don't know the premise is there, but he just doesn't have for me that same Captain America magic. That kind of I want him to be a superhero, and I get the whole kind of like he's struggling and he's normal, and he's standing as a symbol
But
more than anything else.
I thought on that point, right? I thought they could have played into his securities a lot more than they did. They touched upon it of a couple of lines of Sam struggling to live up to Steve Rogers' memory and saying, "Look, I didn't take the super soldier serum," or "I'm not Steve Rogers." I think he could have been a bit more conflicted, or they could have shown more uh, self doubt, basically, to have him come out stronger at the end. Um, so it was interesting to me when I watched the film. There were times where he could take out 5 men without taking a breath, and other times he couldn't take out one guy based on what the writers were trying to do. So it was very inconsistent to me.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it was fine. Fine enough film. It was all good, but there was no there's no magic to it for me. I mean, ultimately, I would have preferred if the arc they should have done is like made Bucky, um,
So
and then that would have been a bit more complex. But again, it's the same thing. It's like one of my problems with a lot of these films now is that they're trying to make something out of something else, which I
what
just
do you
think
mean?
it's like they're trying to continue like it's like continuing the legacy of Captain America as opposed to just frankly just rebooting it or just leaving him as Falcon, right? And
Yeah,
exploring that more. I think that would be better than trying to kind of manipulate him into being like Captain America. I mean, he was good enough as Falcon, right?
yeah. And I mean,
Um,
in comics, he does become Captain America, and then he isn't, and Bucky also becomes Captain, he isn't. And then you got Walker as a US agent and things. So they could have gone
yeah,
a few different directions, which they didn't. Um, I do agree with you. I agree with what you're saying. They're trying to revive it where they could have. There's so much other rich source material they could have mined. But I tell you why they didn't go with
yeah,
Bucky. I was looking to sort of kind of understand a bit about that the other day. The Russos came out and said the reason we gave it to Falcon and not to Bucky is because Bucky's been the Winter Soldier for so long and programmed for so long. There's always that hint of he could go dark at any time, and so they didn't want someone wearing Cap's emblem and shield to have that.
yeah,
I'm not going to call it
fine.
flaw, but that possibility lurking in the background.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing was, I'll tell you what I didn't like about it,
you did
right?
or you didn't?
Was the whole didn't.
Okay.
What I didn't like about it was the whole leader aspect of it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about
I,
leader. I thought they really missed a trick there.
no, because the leader's like the truth is, as a character, he's smarter than that.
Yeah,
The first thing, that's the first thing. He's literally smarter than that, which is the whole point of his whole character, right?
yeah,
And the other thing is that he's quite a charismatic character.
yeah,
Like, do you know what I mean? Very charismatic, in a way, like, well, he's a bit like, he's got a bit of that Ming the Merciless sort of style about him.
yeah. He's a bit like
You
an
know,
evil David Niven slash Zorro type guy with a giant head who can there's a level of suave and sophistication and charm to him that he has that just was not there on screen, I think. So, yeah, I
mm,
completely agree. I think they missed a trick with the leader. And you're right, he's smarter than that. He is, Reed Richards plus Tony Stark level smart, supposedly, with the gamma enhanced brain. Um, and I thought they could have made his machinations and the way that he manipulated everyone way better. Because I think Zemo manipulated people better than he did in
yeah, yeah.
Civil War.
But the thing is with the leader though is that he's one of those characters where he's just better. He just trips himself up because of his ego.
Yeah, exactly. He
It's not
should
because he
he
actually made
should
a calculation
win.
of error.
Yeah, he should win every time. But somehow his ego, or somehow not just him tripping himself up, but other people stoking his ego or getting him riled up and emotional where he makes a mistake. That's generally what used to trip him up, at least when I was reading the comics back in the day. So, yeah, they could have made him really good, but they didn't.
Yeah, so I thought that was good. Red Heart, Thaddeus Ross. I mean, I didn't. I don't think Harrison was good casting for that.
I
Personally,
agree.
but
I think he's too old. He just looks too old now. And we all like to see an angry Harrison Ford over the years. But someone who's someone who's
then his voice starts to break a little bit,
yeah.
just a little bit.
Someone who's always that angry, like bubbling under the surface all the time. I don't think that worked well. And of course, him running around and jumping. One thing I've got to mention in my review is as usual they had the expandable, unrippable pants on Red Hulk. It seemed to just magically grow to the size that he needed them to. I think the suspension of disbelief has been long gone on that one. But yeah, I didn't think they needed Red Hulk, and the way that Cap kind of diffused the situation was a little bit of I think a little bit of a letdown for me, a bit of an anticlimax.
Yeah, it was a kind of a weird film. Like I didn't understand the real choice of putting Red Hulk in as the main villain. They should have just done.
The leader.
But even it's like they shouldn't. They could have just done the leader. But then why didn't they just do a Hulk film? Right?
You know what they could have done, right? Which I just thinking about this now, which I thought would have been pretty cool. Do you remember? You remember Pat Labor 2, where the guy manipulates?
What an amazing film!
Yeah,
yeah.
The guy manipulates everyone into almost starting World War III, right? There's all these ghost attacks and people don't know what's going on, and he plays everyone against everyone, right? I think he could have done something like that. That would have been really cool. He didn't need a big superhero fight as such at the end.
Do you know what? I just sometimes think though, with a lot of these films, I think they should just completely just simplify it. It's like just have the heroes do an origin or a soon after, and have like one villain, right? Like one of the classic villains for each hero, and just do that.
Yeah.
Right, because they've over narrativized it with all these crossovers and what. Now they don't know what to do, right, with all of that. So they're just picking things out, and that's what I mean. Because although he's Captain America, yes, he was Captain America in the comics and whatnot. That dynamic between, I don't know, like him and the Red Skull, or him and like Zemo, or those classic things, they're just not there, and they were kind of counterpoints to the hero, right, in a very specific way that gave that story some life and actually some completion to those stories, and the reason why it kept coming back.
What they
So
could
I
have done,
think
I thought, in a way, and just thinking again about it now, they could have taken quite a few themes from the comics, and if they were really bold, they would have had Punisher kill Falcon and have Bucky step up and become Cap and go after Punisher. The way that Cap died in the comics from the Punisher, I think that would have been a pretty interesting film to see that happen.
Yeah.
Keep it low scale in terms of, not too over the top superhero stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I saw I'm trying to see how this is all going to figure in, because they did that. Did you see the Fantastic Four trailer?
I saw the Fantastic Four trailer, Fantastic Four First Steps. I don't know yet if that's set in the 666 universe or it's going to be an alternate universe because we never heard of them before. One thing I did like about Brave New World is I really liked. Well, I thought Carl Lumbly is an amazing actor anyway. I love his work as John Jones as Martian Manhunter on Justice League. But I thought Isaiah Bradley was a great character, and I thought he was a great in that. I really liked his performance and kind of what they were trying to showcase with him. And I wanted to see more really of him than the rest of them. So that was a bit of a letdown. But yeah, Fantastic will be interesting because now they've talked about them. Now they mentioned adamantium in the Marvel universe based on the Eternals. And obviously the leader said they're coming, right? Or they're coming. So who is that? Is it X-Men? Is that Galactus? Who is it?
Skulls, or we're going to try and pull that one out.
Who is it? Secret Wars Beyond, we don't know.
Beyond, yeah.
Yeah, it could be anyone, really. So, again, I think this is really just an excuse to give Anthony Mackie a film so that Tom Holland can get his comeuppance after he made fun of Anthony Mackie not having his own film years ago. And maybe it was contractually required for him to do one. And then just lay a few small bits of groundwork for Phase 5, which really could have been in a TV show. You know, he could have made this 3-part TV
Yeah.
show, and it would have been just as good. So
I'm kind of, yeah. I like it. I don't dislike it, but I'm kind of getting a bit tired of the films. A little bit, to be honest. They're a little bit kind of.
samey.
They're all right. Yeah, a
Well,
bit all
so the,
right.
so
I
the
watch it every
SFX
night.
doesn't blow you away. The characterizations aren't that strong, I think, anymore. The sort of fighting is still excellent, but nothing new. So it's
Yeah.
really yeah.
Do you know if they're going to do another Moon Knight season?
I thought I heard that they were thinking about it, but I haven't checked recently, so I don't know too much.
You know what? That was good. I like that.
I thought Moon Knight was fun, and Oscar Isaac had a good role in that.
Laters, Gators.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's see what Phase 5 is going about. Yeah, so Captain America for me, probably 5.5 max out of 10, maybe 6 pushing it.
I'd give it 6.
6.
I'd say 6. It's all
I
right.
thought some of the fights were quite cool. Some of the visuals were cool. I liked Isaiah Bradley, as I said. I think Anthony Mackie can hold a lead, but I don't think he held it that well in this film.
I think there was just too much going on, right? Like, so for example, here's an idea for, a bit of like if they did, so I wouldn't do, well, you might do another series of Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I thought was all right.
I thought it was quite
But
good. No, I'm better than some
yeah,
of their shows.
yeah, but
Mainly
if,
because
if
of
you
Zemo.
type
I thought
that
Zemo was
into,
excellent.
you know, yeah, sorry, say that again.
I think a lot of it was because of Zemo. He was excellent in that show.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, you could tie in a storyline from Isaiah Bradley, right, into that thing. That would be interesting, something different. It's not trying to be anything else, and it would just be, a better watch for me, like for me,
Mm.
because it's all a bit kind of confusing, throwing a few things here and there. It felt patchy.
Yeah,
That's what it is. There's no direct storyline to kind of follow. So I don't, like I said, I'll give it 6 out of 10. It's fine. I won't watch it again.
yeah.
But then I won't watch a lot of things again nowadays.
Yeah, I think I
But
heard or read somewhere that they did pretty extensive reshoots for quite a while. I don't know whether it was the ending or not, but they had to do quite a lot of reshoots. So don't really know what that was about, but it seems, as you said, it does felt a bit patchwork.
oh, the big news: Kathleen Kennedy's retiring.
Well, that's what they say.
People are throwing
No,
parties.
no end date in sight yet. They said they're going to announce that the April Con or whatever it is coming up, Star Wars Celebration.
Make her chick, make her gay. That's hilarious. South Park sometimes just nails it. Like they just nail what they want to say.
It always says what everyone is thinking.
It's so brutal because it's like, they just hit that true thing.
They do.
And it just becomes a meme where she's never gonna live that down. Right?
They are the who's the guy that did the Craig David impersonation in
Avid Marion.
yeah,
No, what's his name? Oh, Keith Lemon,
they
whatever
are
his
the
name
Keith
is.
Lemon of the American.
Is that his real name? No, it's something else. No, it's Lee something.
Yeah, but he goes by Keith Lemon, Avid Marion. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, they're that version of it. I mean, Craig David never lived that down. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, that you just got ruined. You just got ruined from that one thing. You'll never ever.
Well, he came out and said he got ruined. He said he ruined his career, ruined his earnings, everything. So,
He's doing all right.
No,
he
claimed that he ruined everything. She hasn't announced it officially yet, though. So wait and see. And everyone is saying it probably is going to be Filoni, maybe Favreau, but Favreau wants to keep his options open to do other things. And I'll be honest, everyone is talking about Dave Filoni as the chosen one, and I think Kathleen Kennedy is really bad. But I don't think Dave Filoni is exceptional. Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed parts of Clone Wars and Rebels and Bad Batch and stuff. I thought Ahsoka was just okay. Mandalorian is really the hit for me that makes it worthwhile.
Yeah, but then, like I think Dave Filoni I think he is good, and I do like him. But I think he's played what he's need to do.
Yep.
He's kind of done what he's needs to do, and then even then, actually, why was the Mandalorian so good? It's because Favreau was in it. He was involved.
Yep.
Like he changed that dynamic or that presentation, and there's something that he really brings to it that I think is you know, makes it a bit more special. Do you know what I mean? It gives it that. I think Filoni gives it that Star Wars feel,
Yeah, and
like a
Trevor
little bit of
adds
a
the
feel,
magic.
adds the storyline and like something slightly different, which is, do you know what I mean? So I think that's a really good combination. So yeah, I mean he's good,
Yeah.
but like I said, we'll see what Andor season 2 is like. I mean,
Well,
hopefully it's less boring.
you told
Um,
you do you also agree with me? Because everyone thinks it's the best thing ever, but I call it Andor.
it's not the best thing ever. They should have done what they did. They should have done it in like 5
3 episodes.
episodes, whatever it was, like 60% of the time. And the best thing to come out of that whole
It's
thing, I'm
Luton.
sorry,
Yeah,
is Luthen and his ship.
yeah,
That was ultimate badass,
yeah.
right? But apart from that, again, it was okay. But again, they didn't have to make it like, what's the word? Um, like, down, it's like space version of Earth. Do you know what I mean?
Well, we can get onto
It's
that in a
like,
minute because that's a pretty good segue into probably our last topic before I have to go. Skeleton Crew. We have very, very different views on this show. And,
I loved it.
and listen, uh,
I loved it,
uh,
even though it bombed.
you are entitled to love it. I will not take anything away from you from loving it. I did not love it. Would I say I hated it? No. Did I love it? Absolutely not. And to your point you just made, the thing that irked me with Andor was it was just the suspension of disbelief was gone. It didn't feel like Star Wars. It felt too Earth centric, real world, our sort of habits, history, and everything. And I thought that Skeleton Crew was as bad. I mean, the first episode set in 1980s ET town where they're riding
No,
bikes to school.
wait a minute. Let me rephrase the whole thing for you, okay?
Go on.
It was Goonies in Star Wars.
It was Goonies in Star Wars, but Goonies
They were trying to do Goonies in Star Wars,
But the Goonies
right? That's
part
what
was
they were
them going to get the treasure. The first bit, where they're going to school, they're on their bikes, they have the school bus, they have the houses, they have the rooms, they have the dinners, they have the freaking microwavable food, they have, all of this stuff is very, and even some of the shots that ET inspired, homaged,
doing. Yeah.
and the bikes and things. But
Do you know what?
the bit they go off into space, then it was Goonies.
So that's why I loved it, right? Because I'm a proper 80s file. It's like that's why I loved Bumblebee. I loved Bumblebee because it just took me back to that
I
time.
love it
But
too.
actually,
I
no,
don't
I
want to
think
see it in
I,
Star
I,
Wars
I
though.
tell you why I really. Huh?
I don't want to see it in Star Wars. I don't want to see 1980s ET in Star Wars.
But you know what? If what I liked was it was just not serious.
Well, that's true.
Right? It was just fun. It was made for kids.
Apart from
With
when Jude Law is threatening to kill children, kill their parents, gets a little bit
yeah,
scientific.
fair enough. But then, yeah, but people say that, but that's our current view of things, right?
Yeah,
If you look at like the films we saw, I mean, they were pretty dark,
yeah.
right? They like they would actually try and kidnap children and like threaten them and all this kind of that. But my point was, it was just a fun, it was for kids, like messing about and having an adventure and like pirates and all this kind of stuff. But actually, it was just fun, and I really enjoyed that. It wasn't trying. I don't feel like it was in many ways trying to be more than that, which I thought was really nice because I think fandom and people forget Star Wars was made for children,
I agree with
right?
that.
It was made for
That's
children.
true.
The thing is that happened though is that those children, i.e., us, grew up
Yeah.
and took it with us, and then tried to make it like stay with us and be more gritty and like be more real life, and actually that's where I lose the fun of it. It's like I miss the fun of uh childhood,
Nostalgia.
suspending that disbelief and just going into that world, going into that other world,
So
in the same way that Batman 89, it's I can completely understand why generationally people will look at the Dark Knight and go, oh, it's more real, it's more real. But for me, it has no magic. It has no magic, and it has no kind of like we always say, we say it between ourselves. You could have replaced that Christian Bale, Nolan's Batman, with any SWAT operated ninja guy,
Yeah.
right?
But I mean, just going back to
Nothing special about him.
Skeleton Crew. So I agree with you in something. That I want the magic, and it is for kids, and we grew up. Um, and when I was a kid and I was in the cinema and I watched films like Flight of the Navigator, it was so incredible. But when
Love that film.
yeah, it takes you away. But when I see Star Wars, I want to see, space battles and good versus evil and lightsabers and cool ships and dogfights and things like that and the Force and mystery and aliens and things I've never seen before. I don't want to see a kid riding a hoverbike coming home talking to his dad about doing his bloody homework, right? I don't want to see that. And on top of that, it gets even worse because I thought that Canto Bite was probably the worst suspension of disbelief Star Wars gave me by putting a casino in the Star Wars universe, right? But then we had the bloody mud spa on top of the mountain where everyone has spa rooms, spa towels, buffets, check-in service at the front desk. I mean, it was too ridiculous.
I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing against you on that.
The mud spa was
There,
stupid. They just had to
yeah,
figure out a place to get that treasure, right? And if they could have got it in a better planet, a harder to find planet with actual perils, I get that they're trying to make a lot of aliens in the way the Cantina never was quite finished, and it never had the look that Lucas wanted it to have. But the Cantina was still the Cantina. It was an otherworldly place. It was something you'd never seen before. It was
yeah,
completely different. Whereas everything in this show reminded me too much of Earth, down to the fact that when you
yeah.
check in, you have the bloody floral Hawaiian garland given to you, and then you get a nice free drink.
Yes.
What? What?
I agree with that. I agree with that. They should have just gone full space pirate and
Yeah,
had something different.
they could have put him in
I agree
any
with
planet with all kinds of Indiana Jones-esque pyramids and things, traps to get through to get treasure. That would have been excellent. But putting it under a goddamn spa.
but again, that's that whole kind of. I think it's just a sign of the times of people trying to make it. I don't know, not realistic, but they're afraid to go into full fantasy mode,
Why?
right?
They're already in the Star Wars
Um,
universe. What do they think they're doing?
well, I don't know. Well, it's like kind of. Well, it's that whole thing of like kind of. You know, it's the whole forcing of cultural agendas. I'm not making a massive anti-woke point, but what my point is that it's like, why would you need to do any of these things? It's in space and it's not real,
Yeah.
right? How do you even know the aliens are male or female or this or that or what? They're just aliens, right? You just don't know. Who cares,
Yep.
right? But I think they're trying to. I think it's to do with probably the general cohort of writers and producers and whatnot that are there to try and do it. And that's probably how they have to sell it, to make it, to blah 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 blah. But essentially, just for me, I just enjoyed it. Like I didn't think about it, I didn't worry about it. I didn't have to think. It was what it was. But I agree that those extra, there were holes in it.
And
Like, and again, they didn't do as much as they could have done with Jude Law. That they made they could have taken him. What they did with the Jude Law character is they should have either simplified him, right? Or if you're going to make it really complex, it didn't really go anywhere. The little complexities didn't end up going anywhere. So I don't know if they're bringing him back for something else or not. But again, they should have just made it more simple. Like what you said, they should have had this, gone on a quest, gone into some whatever it was, alien pyramid type thing, whatever, with lots of booby traps, right?
yeah,
And be done with it.
could have gone to the pyramid in
So
Yavin
the
4.
background. Sorry, say that again.
Could have gone to the pyramid in Yavin 4 from A New
Yeah,
Hope. I mean, that type of thing would be excellent.
or whatever. Yeah, they could. There's plenty of
What
stuff
if
in
it was
like
in
kind of
a
books.
Sith temple somewhere? That would have been pretty cool.
Yeah, hidden in a Jedi temple, or yeah, whatever. Yeah, exactly. Sith temple, whatever. So they could have just done it that way. And I tell you what, I didn't. They did the little hints to kind of force abilities with with Jordan, like maybe the kids, maybe they should have just do it or don't do it. That's one thing that I think. Either have a set plan and do that, and don't do. It's you don't have to be that kind of clandestine or whatever about it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and the kids for me were okay. They did not, to me, have the charm of the Goonies kids. And Fern, who dressed like Han Solo and acted like Han Solo most of the time, was trying to be Han Solo. So I thought that was a weak point for me. But I will say, I think to something you were saying, I thought Jude Law's character could have been much better explored or much better utilized. The speeches he gives about being hungry all the time and seeing his master die in front of him and then not really, taking the path that he envisioned for himself could have led to a lot of interesting, character development or discussions or whatever, instead of teasing out, oh, I can do a little bit of force abilities. Is he a Jedi or is he not a Jedi? Just get that out of the way with early on. Play into his plight of trying to navigate the galaxy after the Jedi had been taken from him, and just spend more time on that, because I thought he was probably the best actor in it, clearly, and
Yeah, no, I mean he's a great actor,
yeah,
and actually, I think an excellent choice for that kind of pirate
yep,
because he can play both sides of things.
yep,
So, and I see the thing. What really changed my mind about Jude Law is it's a show that probably people won't think about. Was actually when he did the New Pope.
no,
That was such an interesting series.
yeah,
Have you watched
no,
that
no, I
one?
haven't.
Yeah, it might not be your cup of tea, but it's a really interesting sort of avant-garde series. It's like it's weird. But you really saw like two different sides to him and like what he was doing, and I thought it was really good.
Yeah,
Sort of slightly bad. Not you're not sure if he's good or bad. It was that. So I think that was a bit of a missed opportunity for me with him. But then I think in the bounds of that story, I think maybe they should just simplified his character. Do you know what I mean?
yep,
Like they should just make it like we said, like the Goonies.
yeah,
They do the thing,
yeah,
and then they come back, and then the whole thing would have been more cohesive with the small town place that's hidden. All of that, it would have been a more of a
yeah.
cohesive
Those
story.
those hidden planets, those were a bit of a letdown for me. That one planet was with a war with two tribes, and I don't know, the guy sounded Finnish or Swedish or wherever he was, and they had to go to a tower and they found nothing there. Those episodes really didn't. I mean, I didn't think they were that enjoyable when they were going on, the planetary quest. And then the bloody alien owl that looked like the clockwork owl from Jason and the Argonauts. That,
Hey,
that clockwork owl woman. Yeah.
legend.
Huh?
That Clockwork Owl
Yeah.
was awesome.
No, the alien owl. I mean, the clockwork owl was awesome. But I mean,
That wasn't awesome.
yeah, they just made yeah, like from the Owl Diaries or Harry Potter or something as an alien for them to talk to. It was just the CGI was a bit in your face and it was a little bit weird. Like I get they want to have aliens speaking English with an American accent or whatever, but I would have preferred an alien language or something. Because again, that suspension of disbelief to me gets destroyed every time. Like you go to the cantina and people are grunting at Luke, and then someone will come and say, my friend doesn't like you. I don't like you either, right? We're wanted men. We have the death sentence of 12 systems. So you get the sense that this is a galaxy with alien languages, and people need to be careful. Whereas I didn't get that. It was too PG for me. Too G.
Yeah, I kind of get. I think I still enjoyed it. Like I said, I loved it because I just didn't have to think, and it was fine. And without thinking about it, I actually looked forward to the episode as opposed to saying, "Oh, it's there, I'll watch it."
I
I
was
was
like,
like, "Oh
oh,
no,
there, I'll watch it. And then the more it went on in space, I liked the pirate robot. I thought he was probably the best character for me after Jude Law.
yeah, he was good. I liked Neil. I don't know why.
Neil was probably the best kid by far.
He's cute. He was just like a cute little character.
Even though, did they need to make him like that? And also, they confirmed that he's not the same species as Max Rebo, the Max Rebo band. It's another species that looks exactly like that, an elephant species. And then everyone seems
Ganesh species.
huh?
Ganesh species.
Yeah, exactly, a Ganesh species. and everyone seems to be on their planet, multiple species living together, living in a 1980s Earth town with one major city, right? With one major city, making credits for droids. So it was a mystery that was a bit weird and didn't really have a finite conclusion at the end. So I don't know, it was a little bit.
You know what it was? They pulled. When I think back, it's you can see like instead of sticking with one thing, as I said, they're trying to pull in too many different things.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost like it's too thought out, but not thought out enough. I.e.,
Like,
if you think about it, the final droid, right, whatever what was the supervisor was like the Wizard of Oz
yeah.
bit, right?
Yep.
Right, then the Goonies bit, then there's the whatever, like you said, the typical ET 80s town bit, and they're like, I get it, and I think they're being clever, but what my feeling is, if you're going to do that, just go full that way.
Yep.
Don't try and like do this. Just make it one simple thing. And actually, I think they don't have the confidence to do that anymore. To make it simple,
Yep.
right, but good, right? Because actually, that's probably what we want. It's like they're trying to, in general, trying to mix this like, what's the word? They're trying to make it more sophisticated than it needs to be.
Mm. Yeah. They are.
I think that's where it goes wrong. But overall, I enjoyed it in the same way that I enjoy watching Cobra Kai, even though it's full of like silly holes. But it's in its own way. It's kind of it's camp enough on its own to know what it is. I think
Cobra Kai
it
started
doesn't
off
even.
really well, paid great homage to the characters, has an insane amount of reverence and lore for the original trilogy, brings back, obviously a lot of people, and gets way over the top at times, as he said. But it's got characters I like, acting I like, and it tries to stay faithful, right? Whereas to me, this was, as you said, they're trying to be cool. They're trying to say, hey, look, I'm doing Goonies and E.T. and all this nostalgia stuff, but it's going to be in a Star Wars setting. And again, I think just do it like Star Wars. Do
They're
Goonies,
just being a movie
but do
hit.
Goonies like Star Wars. Don't do Goonies like Goonies, but in Star Wars. Yeah. So
I take your point. I'm just all I'm saying is that I just found it enjoyable, and
yeah,
actually, as time goes by, I kind of want that more. Like I'm getting less interested in because they're not going to really stick to law or anything now properly anyway. So except on
Ahsoka,
like if you go to Marvel things, except on fringe characters,
maybe. Well, let's see
right?
what
A little bit more.
Andor season 2 has to offer. The trailer dropped, and everyone's wearing Earth-looking suits, and got more intrigue coming. But yeah, for me, Skeleton Crew, Jude Law was great. Kids were just average. I'm with you. I like Neil the best out of all of them. But I gave it, I gave it like a 5 out of 10. Very, very much a 5 out of 10 for me. That.
No, that was a solid 7.5 for me.
If it wasn't in a spa and it didn't start in the 1980s ET town, it probably would have pushed to 6.5.
7.5 for me. Just out of pure, just out of the enjoyment factor for me.
Yeah.
So we'll disagree on that. But I do agree with your points. Isn't it? Like many of these things now, it's ham-fisted.
Yeah.
Right.
Very ham.
And just it's like, do you know what I think? Like the more I think, I said this to my son as well. I goes, can you imagine, right? Like how it was 45 minutes? How many episodes was there?
6, I think. 8.
6. So what is that? 3-4 hours? I can't keep up. Whatever
Okay,
it is.
now.
But if you look at what I'm saying is most of these seasons, right? It's like a good 9 hours of programming. Right? So you've watched 6 to 9 hours of something, right? Can you like and I just think, although they're not the thing, and it's clearly a dying sort of thing, I think filmmaking.
8 episodes.
Just
But
okay.
the episodes were very short. The episodes were like generally like 30 minutes.
Okay, but let's just say a season of a Star Wars season, right? It's like how many hours is Mandalorian if you add it all up? Right?
Yeah.
It's a lot. Like just the art of a film, like the first 3, 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, right? From that 6 hours, how much came out of it?
Yep. because of how
right?
much George Lucas put in it. Even little things like when when the band in the cantina plays a song and everyone cheers because it's a song that's popular in the universe. Like little things like that. Just everything. There's so much info in it. Amazing.
It's also to do with, it's not just the detail and the storytelling, it gives space. It
Mm.
gives space for us to imagine
Yep.
all of that stuff, right? Like the Jedi were magic, right? What does that mean?
Yeah.
They could do magic, they could use, and then it fills in your own mind. It's like, oh, when you're playing as a kid, you have a lightsaber and you didn't know about, I don't know, whatever the force lightning or or whatever minutiae of midichlorians, but you just knew it was magic that you play. It created a whole universe from just 6 hours, right, of what we watched as kids,
Yep.
right, repeatedly. That's fine, but in all of these like 100 hours of Star Wars series, cannot produce like any more lore, really. Nothing new. It did. No, that's unfair. It is newer, but it's not novel.
Yeah. The magic has worn off. And on that sadly depressing note, I'm gonna have to call time on this episode. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Please follow us on the different podcast channels and on YouTube as well. Let us know what you think in comments and send us your questions if you have any. Hopefully, the next time we get around to doing a podcast, you'll have finished Cobra Kai season 6, which, as you have noticed in the first 5 episodes, has a lot of best of the best references. So I think what we should do,
Not a film.
in the next podcast is talk about best of the best 1 and 2. Everyone should skip 3 and 4, as well as the last season of Cobra Kai if you finished it by then. And we can compare notes on Tommy Lee.
Listen, best of the best 1 and 2, one of the most underrated films
Yeah,
ever.
freaking awesome. So let's do that. Let's hopefully finish that and we can talk about that next podcast. But just want to say thanks everyone for listening. Thanks to everyone for the support. And we'll catch you next time.
Thanks.